This happened about 2 years ago when I was living alone in my first apartment. I'm 24 now, so I was 22 at the time. I just graduated college and gotten my first real job as a graphic designer in Denver. Story 1. The Ring Camera. The apartment was nothing special, just a one-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. But it was mine, and I was proud of it. One of the first things I did after moving in was install a Ring doorbell camera. My mom had been really anxious about me living alone for the first time, and I figured it would give both of us some peace of mind. For the first few months, the camera was pretty boring. Occasional delivery person, neighbors walking by, that sort of thing. I'd get motion alerts on my phone throughout the day, but I usually just ignored them unless I was expecting a package. This all changed one night in October. I was at work late, probably around 8:30 p.m., when I got a motion alert from my Ring. I almost didn't check it, but something made me pull out my phone. The notification said motion was detected at my front door at 8:27 p.m. I opened the app and pulled up the video. At first, I didn't see anything unusual. Just my empty front porch, the hallway leading to the other apartments. Then a figure walked into frame. It was a man, maybe in his 30s or 40s. Hard to tell from the angle. He was wearing dark clothes and a baseball cap pulled low. He walked up to my door and just stood there. He didn't knock. He didn't look around like he was checking the apartment number. He just stood directly in front of my door, facing it. Then he did something that made my skin crawl. He leaned forward and pressed his face against the door. Not his ear, like he was trying to listen. His entire face. Like he was trying to look through the solid wood. He stayed like that for maybe 10 seconds. Then he stepped back, looked directly at the camera, and smiled. Not a friendly smile. A knowing smile. Like he was fully aware the camera was there and didn't care. Then he walked away, disappearing down the hallway. The whole video was maybe 30 seconds long, but I must have watched it 10 times sitting there at my desk. Something about it felt so wrong. The way he stood there. The way he pressed his face to the door. That smile. I immediately checked the app to see if there had been any other motion alerts. There was one from earlier that day, around 2 p.m. I pulled up that video and my stomach dropped. It was the same man. Same clothes, same hat. But this time he didn't just stand at my door. He tried the doorknob. I watched him reach out and slowly turn the handle, testing it. When it didn't open, thank God I'd locked it, he tried again. Jiggling it slightly, like he was checking if it was really locked or just stuck. Then he let go, looked at the camera again, and walked away. I sat there in my office, feeling sick. This person had been at my apartment twice in one day. Testing my door. Pressing his face against it. I called the police immediately. Showed them the footage. They took a report and said they'd increase patrols in the area, but there wasn't much else they could do. The man hadn't technically broken any laws. He hadn't tried to break in, hadn't stolen anything. They suggested I stay somewhere else for the night, so I went to my friend Kayla's place. Over the next few days, I became obsessed with checking my Ring app. Every motion alert made my heart race. Most of them were nothing. Neighbors, delivery people, someone's cat. But 3 days after the first incident, I got another alert at 3:47 a.m. I was actually awake, couldn't sleep, scrolling through my phone. When I saw the notification, my hands started shaking. I opened the video. It was him again. Same man. But this time he wasn't alone. There was a second person with him. A woman, thin, wearing a hoodie. They walked up to my door together and just stood there. Both of them staring at the door. Then the man pulled something out of his pocket. At first I couldn't tell what it was. He held it up to the door, and I realized with horror that it was a key. He tried to put it in my lock. It didn't work, obviously. Wrong key. But he tried it several times, from different angles, like he genuinely thought it might work. The woman said something to him. I couldn't hear what because Ring doesn't have audio on the basic model, and he put the key away. Then they both looked directly at the camera. The man smiled again. That same knowing smile. And they walked away. I called the police again immediately. This time they took it more seriously. They came to my apartment, took copies of all the videos, and said they'd investigate. But here's where it gets even worse. The detective who came to talk to me a few days later asked me something strange. He asked if I'd recently ended a relationship or had any ex-partners who might be upset with me. I said no. I'd been single for over a year. He showed me something on his laptop. A screenshot from my Ring footage, zoomed in on the woman's face from that last video. Do you recognize this person? He asked. I looked closely. The image was grainy, but there was something familiar about her face. something I couldn't quite place. "I don't think so," I said. "Should I?" The detective pulled up another image. This one was from my Instagram. A photo I'd posted about 6 months earlier. Me and my friend group at a bar, celebrating someone's birthday. There were maybe 10 people in the photo. The detective zoomed in on one face in the background. A girl I didn't recognize, who wasn't part of my friend group. Someone who just happened to be in the shot. It was the same woman from the ring footage. "This was posted 6 months ago," the detective said. "This woman has been in 3 other photos on your Instagram. Always in the background. Always watching the camera." He showed me the other photos. He was right. In every single one, there she was. Different locations, different events. But always there. Always in the background. Always looking at the camera. I'd never noticed her before. Never thought twice about random people in the backgrounds of my photos. "We think someone has been following you for at least 6 months, the detective said. "Maybe longer. We're still trying to identify these individuals." I moved out of that apartment 2 weeks later. Broke my lease, didn't care about the penalty. I couldn't stay there knowing someone had been watching me for months. Knowing they'd been to my door multiple times. Knowing they had a key they thought would work. The police never found them. They ran the photos through databases, checked with other departments. Nothing. I deleted my Instagram. I don't post my location anywhere anymore. I have cameras everywhere in my new place. But the worst part is the photos. I went through every picture on my phone, every photo I'd ever posted online. Going back years. And I found her. In photos from college. From my hometown. From trips I'd taken. Always in the background. Always watching. I don't know who she is. I don't know what she wants. I don't know how long she's really been following me. And I probably never will. Story 2, the trail cam. I'm an avid hunter. Have been since I was a kid. My dad taught me when I was 12, and I've been going out every season since then. I'm 31 now, so we're talking almost 20 years of experience. Part of hunting, at least the way I do it, is scouting. You set up trail cameras in the woods weeks or even months before the season starts. You figure out where the deer are moving, what times they're most active, where they're bedding. I have about 6 trail cameras that I rotate through different locations on public land in northern Wisconsin. They're motion activated, take both photos and video, and I usually check them every 2 or 3 weeks. This happened last fall, probably late September. I'd set up a camera along a deer trail about 2 miles into the woods. It was a good spot, lots of sign, fresh scrapes on the trees. I left the camera there for 3 weeks before going back to check it. When I got to the location, everything looked normal. The camera was still strapped to the tree, undisturbed. I pulled out the SD card and headed back to my truck. I usually wait until I get home to go through the footage, but I was excited about this spot. So I pulled out my laptop in the truck and started reviewing the images. For the first few hundred photos, it was exactly what I expected. Deer, mostly. A few raccoons, some squirrels. 1 coyote. Then I got to image number 847. It was a person. That's not entirely unusual. You occasionally catch hikers or other hunters on trail cams. But something about this one felt wrong immediately. The person was standing directly in front of the camera, maybe 10 feet away. They were wearing dark clothes and their face was obscured by a hood. But they were just standing there, facing the camera, completely still. The timestamp said the photo was taken at 2:34 a.m. Who the hell is in the middle of the woods at 2:34 in the morning, standing perfectly still in front of a trail camera? I clicked to the next image. 2:35 a.m. The person had moved closer. Maybe 7 or 8 feet from the camera now. Still facing it. Still perfectly still. Next image. 2:36 a.m. Closer. Maybe 5 feet now. And now I could see their hands. They were holding something, but I couldn't make out what it was in the darkness and with the infrared. Next image. 2:37 a.m. Right in front of the camera. So close that their face filled almost the entire frame. I could see their eyes. Wide open. Staring directly into the lens. My heart was pounding. I clicked to the next image. 2:38 a.m. The person was gone. Just empty woods. I sat there in my truck, staring at the laptop screen. This person had approached my camera in the middle of the night, gotten right up to it, stared into it, then left. I kept going through the footage. The rest of that night was empty. Just wildlife. But then, 3 days later, there was another sequence. 3:17 a.m. The same person. Same dark clothes, same hood. But this time they were farther away, maybe 30 feet. And they weren't alone. There were two other figures with them. All three were just standing there in the frame, perfectly still, facing the camera. Next image. 3:18 a.m. All three had moved closer. Maybe 20 feet now. Next image. 3:19 a.m. 15 feet. And now I could see that all three were holding something. Long objects. It took me a second to realize they were tools. Shovels, maybe. Or something similar. Next image. 3:20 a.m. 10 feet. I could see more details now. The person in the middle, the same one from before, had their mouth open. Like they were saying something or screaming silently. Next image. 3:21 a.m. The camera had been moved. The angle was completely different. Instead of pointing at the trail, it was now pointing at the ground. All I could see was dirt and leaves. Next image. 3:22 a.m. The camera was back in its original position. But there was something in the frame now. Something on the ground in front of the tree. It was hard to make out in the infrared, but it looked like a piece of fabric. Or clothing. Next image. 3:23 a.m. Empty woods. The fabric was gone. I went through the rest of the SD card. Nothing else unusual for the remainder of the 3 weeks. Just normal wildlife. But I couldn't stop thinking about those images. About the three figures. About the camera being moved and then replaced. About that piece of fabric on the ground. I drove back out to the location that same day. I had to know if there was any evidence of what I'd seen. When I got there, the camera was exactly where I'd left it. Strapped to the tree, pointing at the trail. But the ground in front of the tree looked different. Disturbed. I started looking around more carefully. About 15 feet from the camera, I found something that made my blood run cold. The dirt was freshly turned. Like something had been buried there recently. I didn't have a shovel with me, and I honestly didn't want to dig. I called the police from my truck. When they arrived, I showed them the photos on my laptop. They took them seriously. They brought in a team with ground-penetrating radar. They found something buried there. About 3 feet down. It was a backpack. Inside were clothes, a wallet with ID, and a cell phone. The ID belonged to a hiker who'd been reported missing 6 months earlier. A 23-year-old woman from Minnesota who'd been hiking alone on public land and never returned. They expanded the search area. Brought in cadaver dogs. They found her 2 days later. Buried about 100 yards from my trail camera. The police are still investigating. They've identified 2 of the 3 people from my trail camera footage based on other evidence they found, but they haven't made any arrests yet. The detective told me that those people knew the camera was there. They approached it deliberately. And moving it, then putting it back, was a message. They were showing me what they'd done. I haven't been back to those woods. I probably never will. All 6 of my trail cameras are in my garage now. I can't bring myself to set them up anywhere else. Every time I close my eyes, I see those images. 3 figures standing in the darkness. Moving closer with each frame. And that mouth, open in a silent scream. Story 3, The Baby Monitor. My wife Sarah and I had our first baby in March of 2022. A little girl named Emma. Like most new parents, we were completely paranoid about everything. We baby-proofed the entire house, read every parenting book we could find, and bought way too much safety equipment. One of the things we bought was a high-end baby monitor. Not just a basic audio one, but a video monitor with night vision, two-way audio, and a phone app so we could check on Emma from anywhere. It was expensive, but we figured it was worth it for the peace of mind. For the first few months, everything was normal. We'd check the monitor constantly, watching Emma sleep, making sure she was breathing, all the typical new parent anxiety stuff. The monitor had a feature where it would save short video clips whenever it detected motion or sound. Kind of like a security camera. The clips would upload to the cloud and we could review them later through the app. I usually didn't bother checking the saved clips. The live feed was enough. But one day when I was bored at work, I decided to scroll through them. Most of them were exactly what you'd expect. Emma moving in her crib. Sarah or me going in to check on her. Totally mundane stuff. But then I found a clip from 3 nights earlier that made me pause. The timestamp said 3:42 a.m. The clip was only 8 seconds long. It showed Emma's room in night vision. Everything was still. Emma was sleeping. Then, right at the end of the clip, there was movement in the corner of the frame. Near the door. I replayed it. Watched it again carefully. There was definitely something there. A shadow, maybe. Or a person. I couldn't tell. The night vision made everything look green and grainy. I showed Sarah when I got home. She watched it and said I was seeing things. It was probably just the way the light was hitting the doorway. I wanted to believe her. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I started checking the saved clips every day, going through all of them carefully. And I found more. A clip from 4 nights earlier. 2:15 a.m. Emma's door was slightly more open than it had been when we'd put her to bed. A clip from a week before that. 4:03 a.m. A strange sound in the audio. Like breathing, but not Emma's breathing. Deeper. Slower. A clip from 10 days before that. 1:47 a.m. The camera angle had shifted slightly. Like someone had bumped into the dresser it was sitting on. I started losing sleep over this. I'd lie in bed, staring at the monitor app on my phone, watching the live feed of Emma's room. Sarah thought I was being ridiculous. She said I was seeing patterns that weren't there. That I was just anxious because I was a new dad. But I knew something was wrong. Then, 2 weeks after I'd started checking the clips, I found the one that confirmed it. It was from the night before. 2:58 a.m. The clip started normal. Emma sleeping. Everything quiet. Then the door opened. Slowly. Deliberately. A figure stepped into the room. Tall. Wearing dark clothes. They walked over to Emma's crib and just stood there. Looking down at her. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. The figure stood there for maybe 5 seconds. Then they reached down, as if to touch her. The clip ended. I immediately opened the app and checked the live feed. Emma was fine. Sleeping peacefully. The room was empty. I woke up Sarah and showed her the clip. She went pale. We called the police. They came out within 20 minutes. They searched the entire house. Every room. Every closet. Under every bed. Nothing. No one was there. They checked the windows and doors. Everything was locked from the inside. No sign of forced entry. The officer asked to see the video clip. I pulled it up on my phone and showed him. He watched it several times. Then he asked me something I wasn't expecting. Has anyone else been in your house recently? Any workers, family members, friends? I said no. Just Sarah and me. What about before you moved in? Do you know the house's history? We'd bought the house about a year earlier. It had been empty for a while before that. The previous owner had died, and their family had sold it. The officer wrote something down. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. We've had 2 other calls from this neighborhood in the past 6 months. Different houses, but similar complaints. Baby monitors showing figures in rooms. Always between 2 o'clock and 4 a.m. We've never found anyone. He said they'd increase patrols in the area. But there wasn't much else they could do. After they left, Sarah and I didn't sleep. We sat in Emma's room all night, watching her. The next day, I set up additional cameras. Not just in Emma's room, but in the hallway, in our bedroom, at the front and back doors. I went through all the footage from every camera every single day. And I found something. In the hallway camera, from that same night the figure appeared in Emma's room. At 2:57 a.m., 1 minute before the figure appeared, the hallway was empty. At 2:58 a.m., the exact moment the figure appeared in Emma's room, the hallway was still empty. There was no one walking down the hall. No one approaching Emma's door. The figure appeared in her room without passing through the hallway. I showed this to Sarah. She stared at the footage for a long time without saying anything. Then she said, "We're moving." We put the house on the market the next week. Didn't care that we'd lose money on it. We just needed to leave. While we were packing, I went through every single video clip saved from Emma's monitor. Going back to the day we'd installed it. I found dozens of clips I'd missed. Going back months. Always between 2 o'clock and 4 a.m. Always the same figure. In the earliest clip I could find, from the first week we'd brought Emma home, the figure was in the corner of the room. Far from the crib. Just standing there. In clips from subsequent weeks, the figure was closer each time. By the most recent clip, the one where they'd reached for Emma, they were right next to the crib. It was like they'd been getting comfortable. Getting closer over time. Testing to see if we'd notice. We moved out 3 weeks later. Sold the house to a couple without kids. I didn't tell them what we'd seen. I don't know if that makes me a bad person, but I couldn't risk the sale falling through. We've been in our new place for almost 6 months now. Different neighborhood, different baby monitor. No incidents so far. But I still check those saved clips every single day. And I still can't explain what we saw. I've tried. Shadows, light tricks, digital glitches. None of it explains how that figure appeared in Emma's room without passing through the hallway. None of it explains the progression. The way they got closer each time. None of it explains why they reached for my daughter. I still have all the video files saved on an external hard drive. Sometimes I think about deleting them. But I can't. Because if it happens again, I need proof that I'm not losing my mind.